and Dragons, the news we crave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards across the land.
Are you outgunned? I'm outgunned. Are you outgunned? It's 2:20 here at Site B, located in the fictional town of Fresno, Nevada, and you're listening to the dulcet sounds of the golden voice of the OGGM. And today we're taking a look at the Outgunned role-playing game that came out last year, this year, from Two Little Mice. I'm very, very curious to see how Two Little Mice were able to create a role-playing game with their teeny little hands. Must have taken them a long time to type it out. Don't know how many mouse-related jokes I'm going to be making while we go through this, but I assume it's going to be a lot. So this is a cinematic action role-playing game, modern-day type stuff, movie. It was part of the huge Humble Bundle, 57 games for $40. Sadly, that one's down, but the current Humble Bundle is really cool if you like Frog God games, which I do. But I'd rather have, those are one of the few ones that I'd rather have solids of instead of PDFs. So anyway, so yeah, we're going to take a look at it. Remember, this is not a review. I'm not reviewing it. I'm simply walking into the game store, opening up the book and flipping through it, throwing questions at it and see if the book answers them. And if I like it enough, then that'll let me know if I want to buy it or not. More importantly, if you like the first look, you can tell me, hey, let's review this game, or let's do a playthrough of this game, or you can pass on. So far, nobody has said, hey, I want to look at this game again. Could you go back and look at it again? So I'm not sure this experiment is working, but I got a ton of games to go through, most of which I'll probably never get a chance to play or run, some of which I'll keep, some of which I'll just put in storage and never look at again. I'm really curious about this one because I love modern day games and because they made a superhero system. And I've heard really good things about the superhero system. So anytime somebody tells me, hey, these guys made a superhero system, I'm like, okay, I'm going to look at their game. So we're looking at 226 pages. Let's see if we have a character record sheet. Bloop. Try that again. Okay. Why sideways, guys? Why sideways? Is this the character record sheet, I think? I can't tell. I think our stats are brawn, nerve, smooth, focus, and crime. Okay. I think this is a better word than crime. I know we're going to call this skullduggery, thievy type skills. But I think there's a better word than crime. I like the fact that they use smooth. I don't think I've ever seen a role-playing game use that word before, so that's pretty cool. And then we got substats: endure, fight, force, stunt, cool, drive, shoot, and survival, flirt, leadership, speech, and style, deceit, fix, heal, and know, awareness, dexterity, stealth, and streetwise. There's a bunch of things that are missing from crime. Okay, so that's not good, but maybe those are special abilities. Then we got a section on, looks and guns and experience and a section for your car. All right, so let's see. Girl with gun. How to make a hero. Roles, tropes, and feats. A modern day action game better have a section about tropes, because modern day action is all about tropes, right? You know, 1 day to retirement, 1 bullet left. And then it does come with an introductory adventure. We got a little story here. We got a little why I made this game and where this game come from and what this game is. So it's set sometime in the 80s through the early 2000s, a sort of a way cooler version of the 80s, 90s, how to play. Some terms you might hear in the game. Best practices, share the responsibility, live in the moment, clean up after you're done, leave room for the others. The pillars of action, action never stops. Like in the movies, you don't know everything. Okay, here's the cover girl with the gun pointed at her. Is she wearing the umbrella? No, it's not the umbrella car. Making hero, someone with a mission. What makes up your hero? What is your mission? Are you willing to live dangerously? And you are more or less a good guy. Heroes have a role, personal data, trope, attributes, skill points, feats, not the best name, and then other stuff. So here's an example character, or the beginning of an example character. I love it when you include example characters, guys. So we've got the roles, the commando, the fighter, the ace, the agent, the face, the nobody, the brain, the sleuth, the criminal, and the spy. I'm 80% okay with those names. Sometimes there's like, I know what you're trying to say, and I think there's a better way to say it. Personal data, name, OGGM, job, YouTuber, age, old adult, catchphrase, get off my land, flaw, sarcastic. What's my job? YouTube commentator. What's my catchphrase? Get off my lab. Okay, so here's the different ones. Your commando. Here's how to spend your points. Some suggestions, I guess. How many of these points do I have? I guess we'll find out soon enough. When you choose a role, you gain 1 point in an attribute and 1 point in each of the 10 skills. Then you choose 2 feats from the list of 6 for the role. Additionally, your role also gives you some starter gear and suggests jobs, etc., etc., etc. When choosing a role, I recommend you think for months about what you want to play and how you want to approach the next mission. Okay. The commando. You are the best of the best, the toughest heroes out there, soldiers with shaved heads who serve their nation or mercenaries armed to the teeth. Commandos are forged in the heat of battle and face danger head to head. Anyone stand in their way should be very careful as nothing scares these steely-eyed soldiers, marine, mercenary, Rambo, commando, predator. We got some example catchphrases. We got some example flaw. We got the example characteristics. You know, it says put 1 point in brawn. It says one point in each of these skills. Then you pick one of these to, 2 of these to make your character a little bit more individual, and then some free gear. And then here's an example of commandos. Sarah Connor, Luke Hobbs, Furiosa, John Rambo. Then we have the fighter. Fighters have decided to join the fray with bare hands, only armed with their fists and good intentions, okay? So we got suggested jobs, suggested cast phrases, where you should put your point, where you should put your sub points, some suggested feats to personalize your characters, and some examples. Bruce Lee, Frank Dux, Inspector Lee, Natasha Romanoff, and Chun-Li are all example of martial artist fighters. The ace, the motorcycle driver, the courier. So same thing, some examples where you should put your points, feats to personalize your character, and then some free gear. Examples of aces, Pete Maverick Mitchell, Baby from Baby Driver. Then we have the agent, government agents of some kind. Mirrored thumbs, sunglasses, always dressed in black. Suggested attribute points, suggested skills, suggested feats. You get to choose 2. Very simple. Not a lot of personalization. Everybody sort of starts out a little bit the same, it feels like, with some personalization. I'm assuming there's more personalization later on. Example of agents. John McClane, Alex Foley, Maria Hill, Johnny Utah. Okay, so then we have the face, the personal, the skilled influencer. Same thing. Attribute, skilled points, choose a feat, gear, example characters. Danny Ocean from Ocean 11, Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean, Dr. Peter Venkman from Ghostbusters, the Nobody. This is everybody else. Just the simple people who get stuck in these unusual situation. Then we have some examples. Cole Turner from Ghosted, Sarah Rose in RED, Calvin Joyner in Central Intelligence. Most of these don't sound familiar. Jack Burton. Jack Burton was just a normal guy. Jack Burton was not a normal guy. Okay, we know he had some military training, but it was definitely the Brain. Hey, that'd probably be me. The Strategist. So same thing, and then some examples. Ben Dunn in Mission Impossible, Daniel Jackson in Stargate, Q in James Bond, Lucius Fox from Batman. We have the sleuth, the detective type character, your Sherlock Holmes, your Dashiell Hammett, your Humphrey Bogart, same thing, suggested stuff. Examples, the guy from Taken, Thomas Magnum, Benoit Blanc, Richard Deckard, Jessica Fletcher. Then we have the Criminal. Not all heroes are nice people. Some of them are out and out criminals who spend their lives avoiding the eye of the law, but they're still trying to be good. So they're bad guys with a heart of gold. Danny Ocean would be one. Roy Waller from Matchstick, Nolan Booth from Red Notice. Then we have The Spy. Bam, bam, bam. License to Kill. You're a super agent, stuff like that. Same thing, suggestions, example characters, James Bond, Napoleon Solo, Ethan Hunt. And here you have suggested ages. And each one has some suggested things. And we got the tropes and what each trope does for you. Bad to the bone. Okay, so I like the way this is laid out and what each thing gives you, So like bad to the bone gives you where you can put your points. So here's how you specialize your character. How many of these do I get to take? I think one. You must choose one of these 18 tropes. Okay. And then choosing the trope gives you some more bonuses. Okay, very simple system. Wow, this is just... Okay, again, not a lot of individuality, kind of like first edition D&D. But you're a spy. You have enough things to make your spy unique to you, even though you all sort of start from the same point. So everybody seems to sort of start with the same pool of goo, and then you pick which of your professions you are, and that little refines your goo a little more. So now we've got our humanoid figure, and then you pick your feats to individualize yourself a little bit more. Now our humanoid figure is wearing some clothes, and then you pick your trope, your class, I guess, or whatever this is. And that individualize it a little bit more. So now we're almost a full-fledged character. We got 18 of these to look at. Little late wasted space, but not a lot of art. So I like that. But again, these are all things that could have been taken up, left space. But so far, I'm liking everything I see. The system seems pretty simple. I don't know what kind of dice we're rolling. Did we get that? Do we know what kind of... Oh, here you go. Here are the dice. All right, so we got Making the Hero. Making the Hero. We've looked at the roles, the tropes. We also have feats, okay? You got feats. You can choose 2 feats. You get one offered from your role and one offered from your trope. And then here's each feat explained. And when advancing during your mission, you can unlock new feats and get a chance to freely. So yes, as you progress, you get more ability to individualize your character, unlock more stuff. Okay, which is what we thought. The explanation of the feat, again, this could have been double, save space, but all right. think that's just something we're going to run into, where the people just pad stuff to make the games more expensive. You know, I don't do this. I mean, all my games are double columned. I use the smallest legible feet. I don't want to waste money because I don't want you to waste money, you know? Rolling the dice. Okay, what kind of dice do we use here? You only roll dice when there's a time something can go wrong. Okay, you can make an action roll or a reaction roll. Action roll and reaction roll. What kind of dice am I rolling? Is this a D20 system? Dice pool. After choosing an attribute and skill, add up the two scores, the total of the number of dice you must roll. To play Outgunned, you can use special action dice may allow you to spot successfully easy, or you can use six-sided dice. Adrenaline, condition, and gear can all modify your chances. Add one dice or +1, or remove one dice or a -1. And when okay, so it's a D6 system. It's a D6 dice pool system. I pick my attribute. There's my first D6. I pick my skill. That's my second D6. That's the number of D6s I'm rolling. And then I add whatever to it. Adrenaline, condition, and gear. Gear gives me another thing. Sounds similar to year 0, but maybe explained a little better. You can never roll less than 2 dice and never more than 9 dice. Oh, a little Star Wars there. Okay. Darth Vader can have 15 dice in lightsaber, but you never will. Remember that quote from D6 Star Wars? That's one of my favorite quotes. You can never roll less than 2 dice, and you can never roll more than 9 dice. So the best player character is going to have 9 dice, plus or minus. Okay. Then difficulty. Basic. Open the door. Critical. Open the door under gunfire. Extreme. Open the door under gunfire while the building is on fire. And then impossible. Did I mention we're in space? I've used this. I literally use this as examples, you know. Basic, open the door. Hard, you open the door, but there's a firefight going on. Extreme, oh no, one of the bullets hit a gas tank and now the place is on fire. You still have to open the door. Impossible. Did I mention you're on the space shuttle? And then here we go. Look, here's the example. 2 dice. Here she's doing the 3 dice. And look how they made the dice into the picture. I like that. That's cool. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I like that. Ah, yeah, that looks cool. And then again, look, he's showing how difficult it is. And then each of the dice is part of the prop. I like that. We have like double difficulty, advantage and disadvantage. How to set the difficulty. How many successes, you know? 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, 5 of a kind, 6 of a kind. So this one, you have to have 2 or more dice that land on the same side, okay? So you're rolling a lot of dice and hoping that you get the same one to roll up. Slot machine. But you don't succeed unless you have at least that many successes. 2 dice, you got to have 2 successes to make a basic success. What are the chances of me getting that many? 1, 2, and 12, you know? So even that's pretty difficult. But I'm assuming there's bonuses you can add. So something about -1 and +1 and criticals and failures. Now here's where it gets a little complicated. 2 smaller successes equals a big greater success. 1 greater success is worth more than 3 smaller ones. 3 basic successes into 1 critical success and 3 critical successes into 1 extreme success. Okay, so you could stack them. All right. I need to see this system in action. Because now you're making it a little overly complicated. It'd be, you know, probably better if it was two dice beat that number, 3 dice beat that number, 4 dice beat that number, 5 dice beat that number. Okay, free rerolls, all in. Game example. I jumped down the wall, starting a short climb. I rolled brawn plus stunts. That's 6 dice in total for a score of success, 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 fail, fail, fail. So 3 in a row is critical success. Sam, I don't overthink this either. I adjust my pants and jump up the wall. I roll brawn and stunt. 5 dice for me. Success, success, fail, fail, fail. Drat, only basic success. That's not enough. I get to reroll. So get to reroll the ones that missed. I don't know how many times you rerolled, but I'm sure it explains. Extra actions. Help from friends. I was liking this system, and now it's feeling a little overly complicated for an action film. Especially if it's supposed to be an action film role-playing game, you really don't want to spend a lot of time figuring out dice and bonuses and minuses. You want the system to be really fast to reflect the frenetic energy of an action film. You know, I don't want to have to do math. I don't want to know, okay, if I spend 2 and I get 3, but then if I get to 3, I can spend more to get 2. But now I'm doing math and so. At the beginning, I liked what I saw. I liked how the dice build up, and I like the individualization. But now I'm looking at a lot of overcomplicated things that I don't know if could have been done simpler. I'm not smart enough to know if this actually would work without seeing a live play of it. So I will look for one, but I am intrigued. What happens if you fail? Gambling. There's still a lot of stuff for dice rolling. Maybe too much. Disadvantages you can take, or disadvantages that you earn through role playing. What happens if you die? There's a thing called death roulette. When you're about to be left for dead, and if you get to spin the roulette, and if the single dice roll will decide whether you survive or you finally rolled your last, that's quite a stakes, right? Roll a numeric 6-sided dice. If the result is greater than the number of lethal bullets in your roulette, you have a narrow escape, but you add another lethal bullet to the cylinder, and it keeps going and going. That seems a little overly complicated. I mean, how many times do I do that? Does it build up through the game, or is it only when I'm at 0? Blah, blah, blah. Some example weapons. Section on gear. How does this one do money? You get some free starting gear. You can lose gear. You can buy new gear by spending cash during the game. Guns. Can't have this thing without guns. And each gun has a feat that you add to it, and what each thing does, and how much they cost. Some example vehicles, section on vehicles, section on cash, spending cash. Oh, similar to what I'm working on, and similar to the system that Victor worked on. How to earn more cash, Combat. Well, this is the combat section. What was that other section we looked at? That has 2 sections on success and failures in combat. Oh, darn. I don't know. I went in this really excited. Everything I saw until we got to the section on action was really like, I like this, especially that little picture. But now I'm like, this is, how overly complicated is your game if it needs 2 sections on how to do stuff? And all this stuff on, I guess they really tried to cover every possible scenario in an action movie. But unfortunately, it feels like while doing that, they made it overly complicated in order to capture everything that you see in an action movie. And that's the trouble with translating from film to role-playing game. People can do things in a film that role-playing games just can't really emulate because, well, the thing in the film is all staged, okay? They have time to set it up, do it over. They have stunt actors. You have lots of tricks to be able to do this frenetic 10-minute action scene, not realizing that, that 10-minute action scene involved, dozens of hours and 10, 15 different people and effects and editing and sound and so much stuff that goes behind the scene. And that's all chopped up and then put into the movie. So that when we're watching the movie, we see the 10-minute action scene and we're like, whoa, they blew up the Death Star. That's so amazing. And we don't think about. And that's great because that works for a movie, having worked on movies. But when you take all that and translate it to role-playing, like these guys tried to do, well, then you're looking at a lot of things and you're throwing a lot of scenarios. And that's every scenario you throw. Well, that's an extra page that doesn't necessarily need to be there. I need a rule for this and 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 this. But yeah, now you're bogging down the system because you had to make rules for this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Again, I really need to see this system live played because I was, pretty excited for the first half. All right. Bad guys, templates for different bad guys. I might have to look at their economy system since I'm still trying to work on mine. I wonder if they let me borrow theirs. The different type of bad guys, how to build a bad guy feats, bad guy stuff. Ugh, so much information. I have to compare this to Everyday Heroes, I think, which is the other modern day role-playing game I have an example of. And maybe what else do I have for modern day other than mine? Then a section on how to DM, how to play the villain. Not a lot of art. I like that. And most of the art is evocative of what's going on. How to make the action or the heat in the mission more and more, dangerous. How to pull off a heist. They have the flashback rules. How to advancement, gaining experience, using experiences, how to build the game around lots of characters, how to build the game around maybe a few amount of characters, and how to build the game around only one player. So there you go. That's pretty cool. Or do a solo play. So say they put some thought into, how many players and how to jigger the game based upon how many players. That's cool. That's cool. I don't know if I've seen that before. I'm sure I have, or some version on it, but it's very cool that they took time out to address that, a single character action film and a team action film have different tropes, right? And here's how you would translate them to a role-playing game. Some examples. An example adventure. So I'm curious enough, if we're going with my hey, I just walked into the store, I picked up this game, I want to know more about this game, and you've got me intrigued. You've got me intrigued. I'm curious enough that I would now want to go and watch a video of this game to really understand how the system, because I could say, you know, like I'm saying, oh, wow, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And then see it played or have it explained to me or try and make a character and realize it does work. I said the same thing about Savage Worlds. The very first time I looked at Savage Worlds, this doesn't work. This game's a mess. But then I played Savage Worlds and I was like, oh my God, this game is brilliant. Everything works. So this could be the same, because I'm looking at now and I'm going, okay, the first stuff I liked, the character building section I liked, but then we got bogged down in this huge waste of pages where you're trying to emulate something that can't be emulated. You can't take a video game, a book, a movie, and then expect it to work the exact same way in a role-playing game. Movie physics and role-playing physics are simply different, you know? Same with a comic book. Comic book physics and role-playing game physics are simply different. And you have to accept that they're different. And you can't force one to be the other. You have certain limitations in each genre, and those limitations you either know to work with to make the best presentation of the product, or you ignore them completely. I can't do a movie in a role-playing game, but I can do stuff in a role-playing game that is movie-like. And some of that stuff I have to slim down and maybe just ignore and just hope the players will, you know, the system's fluid enough that I don't need to cover every specific action movie scenario. That'd just be like examples, you know, a page or two of examples. And then just if somebody tries to do something like, I swing across the chandelier. Okay, here's, you know, 10 pages dedicated to the various different types of, yeah, no. But, and then the ending, when we got to the ending, I was seeing things I liked again. So I'm curious. I'm intrigued enough. I'm at the Savage Worlds point where I'm like, okay, I need to see this game explained to me, because maybe because of my dyslexia, I'm just not getting it, or I need to play it. So yeah, I really like what I see, at least most of what I see. And I really appreciate what they're trying to do. It might be too much. Some of the wording I think could have been worded better, but that's always a problem. I like the gear section, because considering I just finished my gear section and I was not very happy with my gear section. I may go back and steal theirs. Yeah, so, and I really want to see their superhero system. Yeah, I'm curious enough that I would go and try and find a live play, or sit in on a game. Am I at the point when I want to buy it yet? I'm curious, but I don't know if I want to buy it yet. I need, you know, but I definitely want to try it out. Anyways, there you go. There's Outgunned. Do you appreciate me doing these tours of these games? Remember, these aren't reviews. This is just me throwing my limited understanding of the hobby at the product and trying to convince myself if this is a product I want to buy or not, and therefore convince you whether you want to buy this product or not. And if you do want to buy Outgunned, you could use my, see how I did that? You could use my link down below. There's a link down below that you could use, that you could take directly to drive-through. You could buy your copy of Outgunned. You get a little bit of a discount, and a portion of your sale goes to support the OGGM. There's other ways to support me. You need a lot of 6-sided dice for this game. I am an Only Crits Dice affiliate. I don't know if you knew that. So you could get your dice through me. By the way, Only Crits Dice are the only dice on the tabletop role-playing game multiverse approved by Steve the Cat. I've got a Patreon that's up right now. It's been up for a couple days where I'm rebuilding my superhero role-playing game. If you want to check that out, it's another great way you can support me. You can support me via the Ko-Fi or the Super Chats. This is my job, guys, and I'm here doing this for you. If you appreciate what I'm doing, I'd appreciate, if you could take a time to support me. And if you can't, if money's tight, I completely understand. The best way you can support the OGGM Adventures, of course, is to like, share, subscribe, and, party on and be excellent to each other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you tomorrow. See you. This would be a great time to play Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue because it just seems like it's perfect. But of course I can't because I'd get demonetized. So here's the next best thing.
Monsters lurking in